Okay, next I'm going to do some of the bikini bottom genetics with you. I'm not going to go through the whole worksheet because there's a lot of repetition, but I am going to go through a few just to make sure you know how to do those. Okay. Number 1 says, for each genotype below, indicate whether it is heterozygous or homozygous. Okay. So heterozygous, the prefix hetero, if you'll remember, means different, and the zygous refers to the zygote that's formed when the egg and sperm come together. So heterozygous is going to have different alleles. It's going to be a big letter, little letter. Big letter, little letter. Okay. And it shows you. Homozygous. Remember, homo is a prefix that means the same. So homozygous is going to be either 2 big letters or 2 little letters. They're going to be the same. So we're going to put HE if it's heterozygous, and we're going to put HO if it's homozygous. Okay. So look at those. Big T, well, those are the same, so those are going to be homozygous. Big D, little d, those are different. That would be heterozygous. Big B, little b, those are different. That would be heterozygous. And in most cases, the heterozygous is going to show that dominant trait. And of course, homozygous, this would be homozygous dominant. Homozygous dominant because it's 2 big letters. This one's 2 little letters. It's also homozygous. It's homozygous recessive, and we show the recessive trait, so that's homozygous. Okay? And those are all just like that. And the next says, determine the phenotype. Remember, phenotype is that physical characteristic. Genotype refers to the genes. That's the letters up here that we were looking at. That would be the genotype. Phenotype is that physical characteristic, or how that trait looks. So determine the phenotype for each genotype using the information about SpongeBob. Now, SpongeBob's yellow body color is dominant over blue. Okay, so yellow is dominant. So big Y, we use big Y to represent the yellow. And we're going to use a little y to represent that recessive trait, which is blue. So big Y, that's homozygous, and that's homozygous with 2 of those dominant alleles. So that would be homozygous dominant, and that would have the dominant color. So that would be yellow. Okay, big Y, little y, that's heterozygous. We have 2 different alleles, but as long as that dominant allele is there, it's going to show up. That's why it's called dominant. That dominant is going to show up. So that one would also be yellow. It's heterozygous and shows that dominant yellow trait. Okay. Then we have little y, little y. Well, there's not a dominant allele there. That's homozygous recessive. So it cannot show that dominant trait. It's going to show the recessive trait. So that would be blue. Okay. Same thing on this one. Square shape is dominant over round. So the big S is going to represent square. And the little s will be the recessive trait of being round. So big S, it has 2 dominant alleles. So that's definitely going to show the dominant square shape. Okay. Big S, little s, that's heterozygous, but it still has that dominant allele. So it's still going to be square. And then little s, that's homozygous recessive. So no dominant alleles there, so nothing will show up. So that would be the round body shape. Okay, and that's kind of the same thing. So let's skip over. Well, actually, let's just slide down here to the bottom. Number 5. It says, Patrick met Patty at a dance. Both of them are heterozygous, important to know, heterozygous for their pink body color. Okay, heterozygous for their pink body color. So they're heterozygous and they're pink. So if it's a heterozygous situation, the dominant trait's still going to show up. So in that case, we must know that pink is going to be dominant. So we're going to use let's see, it didn't give us anything to use, so let's use P. We'll use a big P to represent the dominant pink. And then it says they're heterozygous, so they're going to be big P, little p. Big P, little p. Okay? And it's dominant over the yellow body color, so the little p would represent kind of the yellow, that recessive trait. It says, create a Punnett square to show the possibilities that will result if Patrick and Patty marry and have children. Okay? So, pink is the dominant body color. They're both heterozygous. So they're both big P, little p. Big P and little p. Okay? So that's what our Punnett square is going to look like.